Hello and welcome to day 60 of my 365-day iPhone video challenge. It is the Sunday Omnibus. We have been talking about trust. On day one, we gave a definition of trust, and I'm going to read it again. If you trust someone, you believe that they are honest and sincere and will deliberately not do anything to harm you. And obviously, honesty is a fundamental pillar of trust, but also is not harming someone. And I don't mean physically harming them, I mean emotionally, that you will care, you will show empathy, you will not do anything deliberate to hurt them. And in the second day, we talked about Google. There's no team without trust. And we talked about Paul Zak. And Paul Zak does an awful lot of studies around trust. And what he's discovered is that there's a chemical in our brain called oxytocin that is produced. And oxytocin is known as the cuddle hormone or the love hormone. We produce it when we hug someone. We produce it when we stroke a dog. At weddings, they've taken blood tests of guests at weddings, and oxytocin levels go through the roof. Paul Zak has even got people to inhale oxytocin, and what he's found in studies where they inhale it and they have to give a stranger money, people who take oxytocin give people more money. And what happens though as well, interesting enough, when people receive money, their oxytocin levels go up as well. So the money was used as a predictor of trust. Now, the important thing about trust, whether you believe in the oxytocin stuff or not, is that trust is reciprocal. If we display empathy, caring, and are consistent in our actions, this will make people feel safe. People will respond in kind. There's a very famous book called 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Pat Lencioni, and he talks about vulnerability-based trust. And what he says is most teams have what they call predictive trust, i.e. I can predict what Bob will say or do when I tell him a problem has occurred. He'll do this, he'll say that, he'll whatever. And predictive trust is fine, but actually it's not very useful. What builds real strength in teams is vulnerability-based trust, when you as a leader are vulnerable, when you say, I don't know how to do this, you're better at this than me, I've made a mistake, I'm sorry, I've got it wrong. But most of us in business are told not to be vulnerable. We're told not to always have the answers, to know everything. But actually, all the research shows that if you're vulnerable in front of your people, they will trust you even more. And there's a really interesting study by Aaron where they got a group of people and they asked them 36 questions. I won't go through it now. We covered that on Wednesday. And some of those questions that they asked had a huge, profound effect on people's trust levels, on how they trusted each other, because they revealed something about themselves. They were vulnerable in front of each other. I'd go back and look at Wednesday's videos if you're interested in those questions. On Thursday, we talked about emotional labor, and what that is that psychologists call it surface acting and deep acting. Now, surface acting is when people who maybe work in a call center or in a restaurant, they try and be smiley and nice. Hi, how are you? What would you like? How can I help? But actually, you can tell they're following a script, probably if they're in a call center, and they don't care. And a lot of people surface act at work. They don't really care about the other people. They're just trying to get their paycheck at the end of the week. But actually what they found is people who surface act are much less happy, suffer more sick days, because actually the effort is quite difficult. And what psychologists have discovered is a thing called deep acting. And deep acting is when we try and put ourselves in the shoes of the person in front of us. So if someone's got a problem, a colleague or a customer, we try and empathize. We try and really understand. And actually, surprisingly, people who deep act are much happier at work, feel much more involved, feel much happier, and build up greater levels of trust. So actually, getting really involved with your people, thinking about them, caring about them, actually will make you feel better and make you enjoy your work more. On, I think it was Friday, and I need to look at my notes, we talked about character and competence. And what that is that lots of us trust people because of their character, because that we think their motivations are pure, they come across as nice. But we're not very good at focusing on levels of competence. Now, at work, we might be. We might look at people and their deliveries and their results and what they've done, but actually sometimes we will ask people for advice. We will go to them for certain things because we have a relationship and we know their character, but they might not be qualified. They might not be competent to answer the question. They might be an expert in one area but not in another. So it's important that not only do you find the person that you like, i.e. character, but they have the right competence in the area that you want information about. And the final thing we covered about was, and it follows on from the deep acting and the surface acting, is all trust relationships are very important, but actually sometimes people talk about trust, but really they're not really interested in the other person. They're only interested in themselves. They're only interested in the sale, getting their bonus, climbing the greasy pole at work, getting the promotion, whatever it may be. And actually we are really good at spotting that in people. And I wonder sometimes if we can be guilty of that as well, that sometimes we put our needs ahead of someone else, and even though we want their help and we're trying to create a trusting relationship, we're not really thinking about the other person, we're thinking about ourselves. And if we want to really create trust, we have to think about that person just as much as we do about us. That's it. I will see you tomorrow. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.